Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
We want to welcome you to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show. Thank you once again for joining us. We always have a great show, and we always enjoy hearing from those that view our show or listen to our show. We are a show, we're both blind. Florence Myers-McSwine, my co-host, and myself. As you know, it's the National Federation of the Blind. And we have a free service that is offered through one of the many services of the National Federation of the Blind, and that is Newsline, which allows individuals that are print challenged to have access to audio information through a plethora of devices. Florence, you want to talk about some of those devices that we use to access the Newsline, free Newsline service?
Yes, sir. I'm going to start with the iPhone because that's my preference. There's also the landline phone, and that's used by a lot of senior citizens because they still use, a lot of times, their landline phone. The computer. There's also access through the Victor Reader Stream, which is another device that we use a lot. And then there is also the digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library. So those are tools that we use to access NFB Newsline. Oh, and before I forget, we just added something else. We have the Amazon Alexa, which is our newest addition to access the NFB Newsline.
Yes, and there's a lot of information out there. If you watch the commercials or listen to the commercials, there's information on how to contact us regarding the service and how you can gain access to be a subscriber to this free service. We're sponsored through the Talking Book and Braille Library services. You can call them also, as well as our office, to learn more about how to subscribe to this free service. I love using this service for a number of reasons, as a sports fan, and just to stay abreast of what's going on in our communities. So check out the service. We have a guest today with us, and we'll be back here shortly to introduce this very special woman, and you don't want to miss it, so stay tuned.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduced the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. And I'd also like to welcome our special guest today from the Indianapolis area, Miss Jean Brown. And Jean, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Jean, you are a woman of purpose and direction, and you have done something that a lot of people say that they have, that they would like to do. But before we get into that, you're also a user of NFB Newsline service,
Yes.
and perhaps maybe that there's a magazine there that might have kind of persuaded you to do what you do. There's a magazine called Poets and Writers. So that kind of made me think about,
That's a very
what
good
you're
one.
doing. Yes. And
There are a lot of magazines that are good on that list that we have, and I think that this is so important, that Newsline itself is so important, because there are so many people who don't have the ability to read the newspaper or to read a magazine that they really enjoy, and this just makes it so simple. Until if there's a magazine that you like or that you like for your child, we've got it. We've got it. I'm pretty sure we've got it.
Yeah, and you know, as you speak about the publications that we have, you know, we have over 500 different publications,
Yes.
and we have international newspapers that you can read. You know, people love to shop still that are blind and visually impaired or print challenged, even those with certain forms of dyslexia, and even now the deaf-blind can utilize this service. And with the new Amazon Alexa, this is opening up more avenues for individuals that can't turn pages. You know, so it's growing all the time, and you know, you as a subscriber know the value of it to you in your daily life. You know, one of the features that we have on there is job listings. There's over 100,000 job listings that people can get in almost any zip code in the country. And with the high unemployment rate that we have in the blind community, this National Federation of the Blind Newsline service is there to assist in keeping our individuals informed. You know, because we have a lot going on in our government. We like to stay informed about it. You know, you just can't get it off of the television on these newsreels. So we read. Reading is still fundamental.
Yes.
So talking about reading and being fundamental, and as Florence indicated, you have really done something that's, I'm proud of you. As a member of the National Federation of the Blind, I know that we're all proud of you, and we're pulling for the success of your book. You wrote a book.
Yes.
Okay, and what is the title of your book? What's the name?
The title is Not Without Question.
Not Without Question.
Yes.
Lauren, you got any questions? Or
oh, at this point, I mean, it's awesome what you've done, what you're doing. And,
Thank you, Florence.
Goodness, we couldn't wait to get you on this show to talk about your upcoming book.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, a lot of people that aren't blind would want to know, you know, why would you, or as a blind person, number one, want to write a book, and then how would you, as a blind person, write a book? Because we know that your blindness does not define you, and we know that you overcome a lot of obstacles. And how do you, as a blind person, I mean, most people would think that you had someone sit down and write it for you word by word or character by character. So, you know, give us a little purview on how how a blind person would write, and particularly write a book.
Well, let me start by saying it's very important that you have the right tools before you start to do anything. And so through the National Federation of the Blind, I've learned that having the right tools is the first step. And so learning Braille was definitely important. Being able to read Braille, I can sit down and write myself a line or jot down a couple of words and then go back to the computer where I've learned to use the computer with JAWS. So I have speech on the computer. And then I can put down the notes that I've written. And it doesn't matter where I put them on the page because I can always move them. But I took 2.5 years writing this book, and I did it without the assistance of anyone else typing it out for me. It was a matter of thinking to myself each day, this is my job. Go in your office and work. And so that's what I did. I worked on it every day until it was accomplished.
So, you know, you have such a. Let's talk a little bit about number one. Let our audience get to know you a little bit better too.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what age did you lose your sight?
I lost my sight at 23.
Okay. And at 23, you were into the modeling profession as well?
Yes, yes. I'd started modeling when I was 13, and by the time I was 23, I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. But during those years, I signed on to a lot of agencies out of the Chicago area. Went to John Robert Powers in Detroit, Michigan, and in Wisconsin. But I signed on with Ann Geddes as an exclusive before I lost my sight. And I worked with Evelyn Leahy, the executive director of the Miss Indiana Miss Universe beauty pageant, from the time I was 13 until today. I still work with her and keep in very close contact with her.
Wow. Well, I just had to tell the fellas out there, you know, eat your hearts out, because I'm sitting on stage with two beautiful women today, and I am enjoying it, you know. Now, that had to be devastating when you lost your sight. And, you know, you're a mom, and you have a family. You have a husband now that's a great member of the National Federation of the Blind. Matter of fact, the president of the Indiana affiliate and second vice president in the nation.
Yes.
So, you know, you got married after you had lost your sight?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually had 2 daughters by my first husband, and I met Ron while the divorce was being finalized. We dated for 6 years and then got married, thanks to, as my youngest daughter Latrice always says, thanks to her, because she saw Ron first.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in our next segment, because we have to go to break.
Okay.
So we're going to come right back to have more conversation and learn more about this book from Ms. Jean Brown, Not Without Question. So we'll be right back. No question about that, right?
Sure.
Okay, we'll be right back. D.J. Brown, where will we find your information?
On Not withoutquestion.com, and the book can be purchased at Barnes & Noble's, Books A Million, and Amazon. It can also be found on the web, and so that you can purchase your Kindle and ebook.
Okay. Well, we'll be looking forward to that, and thank you very much.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today. We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show. As we left, we were talking with our guest, Miss Jean Brown. She is a blind author now, and she has her first book out, and it's called Not Without Question. And Miss Brown.
Yes.
I know that your husband would say, from being a model, losing your sight, and he's been blind, and your daughter Latrice told you about Ron and put y'all together. I know that he would say the sun is still shining, so tell us, you're married, and you just have so much to share that's embellished in you. You've worn so many hats. What are some of the hats that you have worn prior to becoming this author?
Well, I think one of my most important hats is the hat of a mom. And I have two wonderful daughters. My oldest daughter is currently a registered nurse, and she is a great inspiration as well. She is the one who called me up one day and said, "Hey, Mom, I think you should write a book." And I, of course, said, "What makes her think I can write a book?" But anyway, I'll get back to that later. My daughter Latrice, my youngest, I was losing my sight when I went to the doctor, and he said, "Well, you probably won't lose your sight until you're like in your late 60s, early 70s. By the time she was born, I had no vision left. But I knew I had to go on, and I knew that in order to be the mom that I wanted to be for my daughters, that I couldn't let this beat me. So that's where it came into play, that I needed to learn all I could about blindness. And thank God that I met my husband, who had experienced a lot of things in his years of being blind from 17 years old. We got married, and he taught me a lot of things along the way, though. And building my confidence and my ability to do a lot of things I didn't know how to do, learning Braille, learning orientation and mobility skills. Those were all things that I had to learn, and had to learn them quickly. I always loved cooking, had gone to school for cooking, so I still do that, and cook a lot of our family dinners and for holidays, and things like that are things that I enjoy. But over the years, I've gone through learning to do so many other things, playing beat baseball for the blind and joining a blind bowling league, and just all those things are important to me. One of the hats I wear is being a wife, and I try my best to be the best wife that I can be. So writing has been kind of difficult because my husband seems to think I don't get enough rest.
Okay, so then, Jean, now with your writing, with your becoming an author now,
Yes.
the title of your book,
Yes.
Not Without Question.
Not Without Question.
Yes. Now, the title before the book or the book before the title?
Actually, the book before the title,
Okay.
because I had a totally different name for the book. And once the book was completed, it wasn't enough. It didn't say enough. There is actually nothing that does not get a question. How are you going to do that? Well, what makes you think you can do that? You're blind. Well, why are you moving out of town? There are just all kinds of questions that we've had to face as a couple. And one of the questions asked by a minister was, why are you going to marry somebody blind? What can he do for you? He can't even take you to the store. Wow. And that question has been with us for years, through 31 years of marriage. And, you know, it's that question and so many others that we've been faced with that we just have to keep saying, when do the questions end? And they don't.
They don't.
Because there's always someone new who has the same question.
And so then, in writing this book then, Jean, what would you consider to be your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge. I think that probably just knowing that people don't always accept you the way that you are. And so you realize along the way that you can't always change yourself to satisfy someone else. So you live your life the best you can, and you try and give people as much encouragement as you can, and hope that they learned a lesson. You know, that's what life is all about. If you're living, you're not just merely existing, you're here to learn. And so in learning that lesson, you just hope that other people pick up on that, and their ignorance does not always remain so.
That's it. And so your book is now out, right? So
Well,
what's going on with the book?
the book is actually, I should receive my first copy on the 20th of this month, and the book should be on Kindle and ebooks by the 20th, and it should be in print at Barnes & Noble's, Amazon, and Books A Million on February 28th.
Wow. So we're going to come back and conclude our program and learn just a little bit more before we go off the show on how we can contact you and how we can get this great book into people's hands.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. And today we have spoken with Miss Jean Brown, author. And Jean, we'd like to thank you for being our guest today.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing your book, Not Without Question. And we are so looking forward to hearing more about this from the voices of others in the community.
Okay.
So, Jean, where can we get the information? You know, I know that we'll be running it across the screen, but where would you direct people to find your book?
They can go to www.notwithoutquestion.com, all lowercase, no spaces, and they will be able to purchase the book, as well as see some information on there about the book and about the author. And the author's name is under D.J. Brown.
D.J. Brown.
Yes.
Not Without Question. So it's not without question that you, as a woman, a mother, a wife, a federationist, you exhibit that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you. And I like to say that, you know, by you writing this book and just living your life, you know, every day you raise the expectations of blind citizens, because people tend to think that we have low expectations, such as the minister that you spoke about. And hopefully he's learned through 31 years, if he's still around, that his thoughts of low expectation is not what defines you. And so you can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back. So join us next week on our next show.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.